Every week, every Saturday.
All right.
Yep.
Fun. How long you been doing that?
2.5 years.
All right.
And yeah. Oh, I've been doing that for 2.5.
Yeah.
No, I'll certainly tell stories or whatever. But for the sake of pre-interview.
Oh yeah. All right.
I mean, I'll talk. I'll expand on whatever you want me to say.
Well, the room's open, so people are starting to come in and they can hear us.
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
pre-interview, but you know,
we're just warming up the crowd.
Hey man, I'm cool. 2.5 years ago, I started the podcast.
Yeah.
And Guy and I used to do a radio show, and then I moved back to Los Angeles, and I wanted to do a podcast.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're familiar with who Sam Phillips is, but she used to host a radio show on 97.1 and 97.1 KLSX flip formats to become music only.
Yeah.
And so talk personalities needed a place to go, right, Jack?
That's right.
So the talk personalities...
We're 90 seconds out.
All right.
So the talk personalities had... they started their own podcast community, and I somehow finagled my way onto it. And that's 2.5 years later, and now I've got to have the #1 show on that network.
Is that true?
Has to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, by far. Yeah. Or he's got to say that to everybody.
It has to be.
It's the #1 show.
It is the #1
1 minute
show.
out, 60 seconds.
Is it syndicated anywhere else other than Hot Talk LA?
Just on iTunes and on Stitcher, and then we do all the shows on. We webcast it.
Okay.
Video webcast it.
While you're doing it.
While we're doing it on this website called thetvspot.com. So we're not tweeting about this.
I've tweeted already a couple times.
So
I've programmed a few as well.
I'm gonna tweet one right now.
30 seconds out.
Being interviewed about podcast shit. N-A
15 seconds out.
TV.
10 seconds out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up? This is Nappy Brown Bag Lunch on Thursdays at 1. Today we have David Nussbaum, who's a former CBS radio salesperson with ties to Howard Stern as well. He's worked with over 150 stations nationwide, including WCBS-AM, Yankees Radio Network. Right now he's the founder and CEO of Podville Media, an agency dedicated to taking experimental, independent celebrity talk shows online. Very specific niche.
I read that too. That's one way to put it. Sure.
Yeah. And then it goes on, finding an audience for those shows and monetizing that content, which sounds like a golden
It makes it sound so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. It sounds like you're a magic maker. You also host a weekly podcast talk show called Decently Funny with Nuzzy and the Guy. So you're a talent as well as a producer.
I'm very talented.
So you got your start in radio. Why did you choose radio for your career in media?
Well, I wanted to be a broadcaster. That was always my dream as a kid. Always wanted to be on the radio. So when I moved to Los Angeles in '99. I started applying for jobs on the radio, and the only person that would hire me was a guy that worked at a Spanish sports radio station to sell advertising. And so that's kind of how I got my start. But it was pretty cool because now all of a sudden I'm working at a radio station. It was the Dodgers, it was the Lakers, or it was Los Dodgers. I don't speak Spanish, so it was...
Was it hard to sell advertising when you didn't speak Spanish?
No, because I spoke sports and I spoke radio, and I didn't write the commercials in Spanish, but I could kind of understand what was happening. I watch a Dodger game and I hear the broadcaster going crazy. I know what he's doing. I know he's calling a home run, but I just don't understand the words.
Very funny. Yeah. So you went from there then to CBS Radio, right?
Sort of. There was a couple of stops along the way, but yeah, I moved from Los Angeles to New York, And while in New York, I hooked up with CBS Radio and the the New York Yankees Radio Network. I'm in New York. I was selling ESPN Deportes Radio, which was Spanish sports. It was another Spanish radio network. And I'm living in New York, and I'm saying, why am I not selling the Knicks or the Yankees or the Mets? So I got hired by CBS to sell the Yankees, and that was my gig for a while.
Did you find sales easy or tough?
Well, sales to me have always come easy because I've always sold a product that I understood and that I liked. Like, I love Howard Stern show. I love sports. I love Adam Carolla show. Like, whatever I was selling, it's because I was already listening to it. I was already into it. I would go to the Yankee games. I'd listen to the Stern show and all that stuff. So I've never claimed to be a good salesperson. I just know that I'm passionate about what it is, and it kind of comes across when I'm in a sales meeting, when I'm pitching an idea for something. So I'm not
So you still consider yourself a salesperson?
Yeah.
Do you think it's a good career field if people are thinking about getting into radio or some other TV or something to start in sales and then move into the creative side, or how did you?
Yeah, it's hard to make the move. Like, I was very lucky because where I started, it was like sell something and then ask questions later. Like, we had a lot of block programming at this Spanish radio station. We had a lot of open time. It was just anything goes. So I was selling people their own shows. I was selling features inside of the games, because those on-air, the play-by-play guys and the color commentary guys, they can talk and talk and talk, but sometimes, it's funny. Like, if somebody steals second, I wanted to have that brought to you by HDT alarm systems, like don't get caught stealing or something like that. So every time there was any kind of play, like a home run play, or I'd have Johnny Walker sponsor every time somebody got a walk, so I always came up with something pretty.
Those are pretty creative insertions.
Right. So
had your clients ever heard of those types of insertions before, or did you have to explain it to them?
Yeah, I think people kind of got it. It was my way of getting the meeting, because who wants to buy a commercial? I mean, commercials are kind of boring, and I don't want to buy a commercial. They're expensive. It's like, wait, so some guy talks about my product for 30 seconds, and that's going to cost me $2,000? That seems like an awful lot of money. But if I came to you and I said, hey, I've got this great idea. If a New York Yankees pitcher pitches a perfect game this year, we're going to give away $1 million to a lucky listener, and it's going to be brought to you by, and then your name. And so I did that. I sold one of those, and I sold that for almost $300,000 to an advertiser. And what it really is it's just one big giant commercial over the course of an entire Yankee season. But
were all of your colleagues so creative with their radio sales?
It was kind of, when I was with the Yankees, yes, we all had creative meetings. We would try to outdo each other with creativity, and it was always fun. Like, Triple Play was brought to you by, like, Time Warner. Inside the Park Home Run was brought to you by something else, and we always had fun because we had like our 5 or 6 like main things, and we kind of battled over who can get the most money and get as creative as we could, and we really poured out that Yankee broadcast. It was great. Every time I was reading like the newspaper, and they're like, oh great, another commercial Yankee. Like, I loved it. I loved watching people hate how many commercials we shoved down their throats, but it meant that it was working. People were talking about it.
So you also worked with Howard Stern. How did you meet him, and how did you end up working with him?
Well, I briefly sold some advertising for Howard when I started working for CBS lots of years ago, before he made the move to satellite radio. But I really made my connections with the Stern Show when years later, after they had already made the move to satellite radio, I was working for the Yankees, and my now friend Jason Kaplan, who is a segment producer, awesome guy, and he's with the Howard Stern Show. I noticed that we had a very similar profile picture on our Facebooks, And we were both wearing hard hats, and it was at Yankee Stadium right when old Yankee Stadium was being knocked down and new Yankee Stadium was being renovated. And so I said, hey, I'm with the Yankees. I could probably say this now because I don't work there anymore. I said, I could throw you a bunch of Yankee tickets. Why don't you give me a tour of the studios, and it'll be kind of a fun little thing, because I'm a huge I'm a huge Stern fan. He's a huge Yankee fan. And so we just started like going to Yankee games together, and I just stopped by the Stern show, and then I got to do, there's a show that comes on after the Stern show, and it's called Superfan Roundtable. And so every time I wanted, they would just invite me on the show. And now I'm living in Los Angeles, so I don't get to do it as often, but every time I'm in New York, I'm on Superfan Roundtable on Howard 101.
Very cool.
Every like 2 or 3 months whenever I'm in New York.
I'm sure some fans would die for that.
Yeah, it's terrific. I love it. It's so much fun because it's professional radio, it's satellite radio, it's explicit, it's uncensored. It's just it's so cool, and you get to be in the Howard Stern universe. It's great.
So let's talk what you're doing now. Yeah. You are a podcast producer. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the nuts and bolts. What is a podcast?
Podcast, basically, the way I like to explain it to my grandmother is it's a pre-recorded radio show that you could listen to whenever you want. It's like TiVo. Like TV, you could just record your favorite TV shows, and then you watch it when you want. Same thing with podcasts. And it's basically all of the cool people that used to be on radio, and then radio got too cheap to pay for them, to pay their salaries, so they all bounced and started creating their own radio shows. And now you could listen to it. It's free. You could listen to it online, or you could listen to it on your smartphone or on your iPad, whatever you want to do.
And you run Podville Media.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the company and what you do?
Sure. Podville Media was founded on... It's basically the same principles as selling advertising for radio stations. But I was working for CBS in Los Angeles. I was being asked to sell programming that I didn't feel comfortable. It made me a salesman. There was a moment when I was being forced to sell the Dr. Laura show. And I don't like Dr. Laura. I don't find... Well, I just... Oh no! Is this a thing? Do you guys love Dr. Laura here?
No, you can't say
Okay.
that. No,
Well,
I'm kidding.
okay,
I'm kidding.
anyway,
We have no
so
ties to
Dr.
Dr. Laura.
Laura-
Sponsors our show.
Yeah.
Does she?
No.
Oh, okay.
We
Well,
don't know Dr. Laura.
I love Dr. Laura. What am I talking
Yeah.
about? I think she's terrific. Anyway, it's just that it's not my kind of show, and it was hard for me to sell it because, like I was saying earlier, 10 minutes ago, I am not a salesman. I just sell. I talk about what I like, and then people are like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I couldn't fake liking the Dr. Laura show. It's just not my demographic. It's not my kind of show. So I left CBS, and I started Podville Media, where I sell podvertisements, and now I get to sell all the cool shows I love listening to. Like Kevin Smith, he's a film director, and he's a podcaster. He owns, Smodcast, and Joe Rogan's got a podcast, and Adam Carolla, who used to be on 97.1, and all these guys. So now I go ahead and I sell.
So you only sell shows that you love listening to?
No, I've become a money hungry whore, and if there's an advertiser out there that says I'm looking for this kind of show, then I just do my research, and I just if someone's looking for a Dr. Laura type show, I'll sell it now.
And you'll find the talent,
I'll
you'll find that
it.
audience.
Yes.
How do you go about growing the audiences of your podcasts?
Well, it's separate from Podville Media, but my podcasts right now are decently funny with Nuzzy and the Guy, my co-host. I produce right now 2 celebrity-hosted podcasts. One is The Shed Show.
Okay.
And The Shed Show is hosted by actor-comedian Andy Dick. And it's called The Shed Show because he lives in a shed behind his ex-girlfriend's house. And
That sounds pretty impressive.
It used to be called The Shit Show. And I don't know if you have to hit the dump button on the curse word. But
I don't think it's that bad.
It used to be, that was the name of the show on when it was on, actually, Howard 101 on satellite radio. But we wanted to kind of do a podcast version of that. So it's called The Shed Show. And then there's another show that I do called Def Wanna F. I think we know what that means. And that's hosted by former Saturday Night Live and former Mad TV cast member. The only guy that's ever been a cast member on both shows. His name is Jeff Richards. He's better known, maybe not better known, he's also known as Drunk Girl And he used to dress up as a drunk girl and like hit on Jimmy Fallon on Saturday Night Live and sprawl across the Weekend Update desk. And he's totally talented. They're both so talented, and we get great guests.
Cool.
And so, how do we build an audience? We've got great guests. Like we just had Eric Roberts and Debbie Gibson on Andy Dick's show, and we just had Steve-O 2 weeks ago on Jeff's show. So they've got massive followings. Oh, and on Decently Funny, my last guest was Michael Ian Black. And Michael Ian Black's got 1.7 million Twitter followers. So my show doesn't even have to be good. All they have to do is just tweet out that they're going to be on it, and then it's instant audience.
So how did you decide to start producing your own shows?
I've always wanted to, own my own radio station, and this is I don't have the money to do that. Plus, I think I'm over radio, and the podcast thing is just so exciting for me. So, and plus, I live in Hollywood. I like having celebrities in my living room. By the way, all the shows happen out of my living room, even the Shed show, but we don't tell anybody that.
So do you think having celebrities on is integral to building your audience, or are there other ways to go about it?
No, my audience, yes, because I'm not famous. So I need celebrities on the show because that's how I'm going to build my audience. So I've had music like Panic at the Disco was one of my biggest shows. And although I wasn't a huge Panic at the Disco fan because I'm an adult man, mostly younger, teenage, or 20-something-year-old female girls are into Panic at the Disco. They're a huge band. I didn't realize how big they were. Jack is a big fan of Panic at the Disco. So they performed from my living room in front of an international audience. We did crazy numbers, and musicians. I've had reality stars on, comedy writers and actors like Jason Ritter. One of my heroes in comedy has always been John Ritter. Unfortunately, John Ritter is no longer with us, but Jason Ritter looks like the guy. He's got his last name, and I got to ask him cool questions about his father. So,
do you advise strategies that are different than your strategy to your clients when they're looking to build their audiences? Like, what if they don't have access to celebrities?
With the podcast that I sell advertising for?
Yes.
Oh, well, the podcasts that I sell advertising for are usually pretty big podcasts. They've got anywhere from, 50,000 to 250,000 downloads every single episode. And they're usually hosted by celebrities themselves or comedians. So I don't advise them to do anything. Like, they don't even know me as a podcaster. They know me as
sales rep.
David Nussbaum, the salesman. And in fact, I'm wearing a salesman outfit today because I just came from a sales call. So trying to whore out somebody else's radio show.
So you've been doing your shows now for a couple of years. What do you think the benefits are, and how do you feel about it? Is it what you expected?
There's pros and cons with everything. The pros, the benefits, although I haven't made a penny doing Decently Funny. In fact, I've lost money doing it. But it's my passion, Like I like a few things that I don't make money at doing. I like running. I ran the LA Marathon. I love broadcasting my podcast. My best friend lives about 2 hours south. He lives in southern Orange County. So it's a cool way for us to get together for a couple of hours every week. And I like, and I'm not afraid to say it, I like having celebrities in my living room. I like it. I thought to myself, like, okay, so I moved back to Los Angeles and I said, I live in Hollywood now. How do I become friends with celebrities? I can start going to all these Hollywood parties, but I don't fit in there. So I was like, how do I lure them up to my apartment? And so this is the best way to how to. So I started luring up reality stars because once they leave the Big Brother house or once they get kicked off the island, the cameras go away and they're like, where are the cameras? I want to continue this. And that's where I come in. I go,
fulfill their dreams.
Come on up to my living room, but I become really good friends with, and that's kind of how it started with reality stars. But
and now you stream these podcasts as well. what do you think are the benefits of streaming it as well as distributing it as a regular podcast?
Well, for me, I'm much more comfortable in front of a camera. If I didn't webcast my podcasts, this would make me whatever. I'd be so scared of sitting in front of this camera and talking to you. So I'm much more comfortable on camera. It opens up to a whole other audience, people that, for something that's visual, people want to watch it. Like I did a show a few months ago. I'm not proud of it, but I'm gonna promote it anyway. It was called what is that called? The Salvia Challenge podcast. Have you heard of salvia?
No.
It's a drug that it's legal. It looks like pot, but it's basically it's an incense, and that's why it's legal to own it, because you're not supposed to smoke it. Are you mental? People that smoke this, you have got to be mental. Stop it. It's crazy. So anyway, I had two dopes come up to my apartment and smoke this, and it's funny to listen to, but they smoke it and they just drop to the ground. I didn't have insurance. I got a little scared.
You could have been sued.
I could have been sued, but I should have just had my Podville Media, because that's an LLC. You can't sue. You could just sue the company. No, but yeah, don't do that. Don't do the Salvia Challenge. But if you want to watch it, it's online. Just type in Decently Funny Salvia Challenge. But it's crazy. One guy, we had them sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat because we wanted to start them as normal. If you even think about doing salvia, you're not normal. But as normal as you can be, we wanted to start them at before, and then they took their bong hits of salvia, which is free, so we're not doing anything illegal. You've got to be mental to do it, but still. And then I thought it would take them on some kind of magic carpet ride or trip, and I was going to interview them while they're tripping. I thought it'd be fun. But they basically just got knocked out for about 10 minutes. So it didn't make for good...
Not good radio.
Not good radio, but good
webcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit. The benefit is that. And also, like, when I have sexy little reality personalities or porn actresses come over, you don't really want to listen to those people. You want to look at them. So there you go. And also, like with Panic at the Disco, it was great because they're all good-looking guys and they're banging away on their drums and their guitars and stuff, and you want to see this stuff too. It's like we made it a concert in front of, like, I think it's like 70,000 people watched it live across the world, and we were getting real-time, like, it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great numbers.
Yeah. It did way better than the podcast.
Sure. So let's get back to Podville Media, just because I know there's a lot of independent content creators out there. Everybody wants to monetize their projects finally. And so you are kind of like an agency for podcasts. How do you go about selecting the podcasts you'll represent?
Well, I've got my stable of advertisers. I've got like a dozen or so advertisers that are always asking me to find something else for them. So I'm always looking for the next podcast, and they're popping up all over the place. And then I've got it seems like I've got about 100 podcasts that I sell advertising for, and I've got a list of everything that they use. If you hosted your own podcast, one of the first things that I would do after finding out all about the show and how many downloads you get and who's listening, what is your average listener like, is male, female, old, young, how much money they make.
Is there minimums they have to hit along those areas, like minimum amount of weekly listeners or anything?
Yeah, I would think so, because I sell based on two things. If you're a celebrity, then that's great. I can get a premium for you. But also I sell on a cost per thousand basis, which is the way a lot of people are buying advertising these days. It's CPM. So if you have 1,000 downloads, that's great. You've got 1,000 people listening to your show. That's great. But I pretty much I can get you $20 for a commercial. And that sucks, because I'm going to take a commission on that. And so you're basically left with, a smaller amount. So yeah, I want you to have a large audience.
Do those CPMs go up depending on if they have a really select audience that perhaps is worth more than other audiences? And how do you go about determining which audience is worth more?
Sure. Let me just finish real quickly, because this is very important. I think if someone wants to sell advertising, sell what you are, sell what you're into, sell what your really interested in. Like, I would talk to you, I'd say, what kind of car do you drive? What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of pen do you write with? What kind of watch do you wear? And then I would go to all of those companies and say, hey, the podcaster, where's your watch? He'll absolutely say, I've been wearing this watch for 15 years and I haven't, and so that makes it a lot easier to make that sale too, because automatic endorsement right there. So that's one of the things that helps, that a lot of people don't do. Little secret for you guys out there. And what was the question?
The other question was, how do you go about putting a value on the audience? Because I believe the CPM will change based on who the audience is. If it's 1,000 CEOs versus 1,000 skateboard kids.
Right.
How do you go about valuing that audience?
Well, the advertiser is very important. I might, if your podcast is a love lines kind of podcast where you talk about sex, love, and relationships, I might go after a dating website or an online adult toy marketplace or something along those lines. But if your audience is made up of small to medium business owners and CEOs of companies, maybe I go after like an online stamps thing where you can send, or any of those things. Mm-hmm. What are the any of those companies that geared. I match them up. I know what I'm doing.
You seem to have a unique background for this. Are there others like you out there who specialize in selling ads on independent podcasts?
No, I'm the only one in the world that does this. So you have to come to me.
And if
I'm the only one.
There's no hope other than
no hope. You would have to reach me.
And do you accept submissions of any sort from people who might be interested and think they have what it takes?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got nothing but time.
And how should people reach out to you if they want to ask you a question or get you to rep their podcast?
Well, I would love more Twitter followers, so you can follow me and then message me on Twitter at the Nuzzy, TheNuzzy. My phone's blowing up with all the people adding me right now. Or Nuzzy at decentlyfunny.com is my email address. So I should probably have a Podville Media email address, but I've got 3 Gmail accounts. I've got a Yahoo. Too many email addresses. So I'm going to stick with the one, Nuzzy at decentlyfunny.com, and the Twitter.
Very cool, and we'll tweet that out.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to promote that you got going on right now?
Just the podcast, decentlyfunny.com. Check out, what are my other shows? What did I say?
Shed
Show and Def 1F. And if you have a podcast, and how about this? I'm going to throw this out for all the podcasters out there. If you want to be the good guy and let me be, the salesman bad guy that goes after your advertisers for you, I'll split my commissions.
50-50.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, 90-10 is still considered a split. But yeah, we'll figure something out. But this has been a lot of fun. People watch this thing?
Yes, people do watch this thing. I'm not sure how many people are in the room right now, but we get above 10,000 each time. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been David Nussbaum. The Nuzzy, TheNuzzy, his Twitter handle. And this has been the Brown Bag Lunch Series. We'll be back next Thursday again at 1. And don't forget, we got an upcoming event called PitchCon in June 7th and 8th, where we're lining up 50 catchers to hear your ideas. It's normally web-based ideas or television concept ideas, and we give you guaranteed pitches with them. So check back next week, and thanks for joining us.
And we are out.
That was good.
Excellent
Did
interview.
I do all right?
Yeah, of course, man.
11,438.
11,448.
11,438.
Eric Zulli beat me? Son of a bitch.
Yes. Eric beat you.
I tweet it all the time.
It was excellent.
We'll see. I might have got your email address wrong, but...
Oh. Hey, that's cool, though.
I got him out. That's good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What was the number I just read? 11,438.
Great.
So good.
Cool.
Oh, podcast.